What's going on, guys? It's Picsoleated, and I lined up for the new pair of Nike X Sacai Waffles in the white nylon and black nylon colorways at a local shop in Toronto known only as Haven. And boy, let me tell you, as far as shady lineups go, this was the worst one yet. But before we get started, yes, that's right, I'm back, and yes, I had a little hiatus, and I wanted to address that with you guys right now. If you're wondering what happened, well, nothing really. I was just kind of put off from sneakers for a while because the state of the sneaker game right now is at such a degraded level. I mean, it's difficult enough getting a limited pair of shoes that you really want, but now the odds are infinitely stacked against you. You can do the time and camp out, and even then your spot in line is not even guaranteed here in Toronto, and I'm sure it's like that in many other places too. The corruption is at new highs, and the kids in line aren't willing to speak up when they're getting cut. The store owners are running their own little confusion tactics to get the reseller masterminds and their minions to go into the store first. And I don't even know what to say about this because normally I have a good level of respect for Haven. They usually do things fairly, or at least they have in the past when I've lined up for something, but this was something else. I got a bit of footage to show you of the experience before we get into the review. Keep in mind, it was a really rainy day, so initially I didn't want to film and I didn't take my camera, but while lining up I decided to start filming a bit and I used my phone, so here's that wonky footage. Alright, we're at the Haven lineup. Huh? I'm gonna vlog this. People have been cutting in line all day.
I feel like I lost so much blood while I was cutting.
We're getting screwed here, guys. We've seen the same people go in multiple times. We've been waiting near the front for like hours. For 2 nights. Oh, I thought he said for 2 nights. This. Culprits. Everyone's out here putting their hands up. Like that's supposed to help us get pairs, help us get our shoes. Plain Simon Says. We don't even know who told us to put our hands up. So I think I've figured it out. There's a second line right there. And as you can see, it's always the same people. Those people have gone. I would say it's been another hour already, and we are still in the exact same spot. Apparently, well not apparently, I can tell you from eyewitness testimony that plenty of people are just cutting and just going back. Somehow they get away with it, and we're still stuck in the same spot. I don't know how they do lines out here, but this is probably one of the worst ones I've been in. I didn't think it was gonna be. Like, if you have enough stock, just let the people that actually lined up go in, as opposed to letting the same people go in like 4 or 5 times. But we'll see what happens. Finally, we've moved up. Haven. Oh. Inside, baby. Alright, that's that. What do you have to say about this release, Josh?
8 hours later, a bunch of disorganization later, and we're out here. Not canceled.
That's it.
Okay,
Summarize.
And now we're out and the sun's out. It's all meant to be.
It's meant to be. It's destiny. Amanda. She's just happy we're done. And there you have it. It is now the next day, and the lineup situation was handled extremely poorly. There was so much trickery and buffoonery going on. No way were actual fans of the sneakers or fans of the brands happy with what went on, because most likely they didn't get their size. I mean, unless you're a bigger size. The only way you were able to go into the store and cop the shoes was if an employee gave you a ticket, and the employee specifically said you have a better chance of getting a ticket if you go to the back of the line, which is the most confusing thing ever, because what happens to the people that were lining up the whole time and didn't get a ticket? Why would I risk losing my spot in line by going to the back of the line to get a ticket? And what happens if I go to the back of the line and don't get a ticket? They didn't say you're guaranteed to get a ticket. They said you will have a better chance of getting a ticket. Doesn't really mean much. And what about all the people that waited throughout the night in line to hold their spots? What happens to them? Turns out it didn't matter, because whatever scheme they were running worked, because a lot of people that went to the back of the line got tickets, and the people who really were in line and just went to the back to see if they would get a ticket didn't, and they lost their spot in line. And because you can't cop a pair of shoes without the tickets, all they had to do was go from the back of the line to the front of the line, and eventually they would get in before the people that were actually in line and didn't get a ticket. Pretty much the people who were waiting in line out in the cold for hours on end got to sit there and watch the resellers and their minions go in. And what's sad about it is some of the people who came out with pairs, a few minutes later you'd see them go right back in and get more pairs. And I did what I could to keep people from cutting around me, but it's hard to get everyone in line to do the exact same thing. And tons of people came up to the owner and the employees of the store to let them know what was going on, but they wouldn't do a thing about it, which can only lead me to believe that they were part of it in some way or another, unless they choose to prove otherwise. These kind of situations grind my gears, because you're essentially getting screwed for following the rules by people who are not following the rules, and there really isn't much you can do about it without causing a stir. From what I was told, there was security at the front of the line, and there were clearly employees walking around watching the line, so either their eyesight went to legally blind levels or they're willingly ignorant to what's going on. Either way, I strongly believe this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't on purpose, and it's really these situations that put me off to the sneaker game for a while, because at some point you just get sick of doing things the right way or what's considered the right way and end up getting no results. From taking L's on a weekly basis on raffles to getting cut in line with nobody willing to do anything about it, it's really just too much of a time commitment for anyone who has anything going on in their lives. And that's my rant on the situation and why I've really been out of the sneaker scene for a little while. But onto a more positive note, even though I didn't get them in my size, I can still review the Nike X Sacai Waffle in the black and white nylon colorway. So let's literally jump into it. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the black pair, then show you the white pair afterwards. As we all know, Nike and Sacai have been teaming up for a short while now. Starting last year, they released the Nike X Sacai Waffles and Blazers in 2 colorways, each that are now the OG colorways. For the Sacai, we had the blue pair and the green pair. I'm not really sure what the official names were, with the Blazer coming out in a legend blue colorway and a snow beach colorway, which is my personal favorite. Then we had a second release of Waffles and Blazers that included a white and gray and black and gray colorway of the Waffles, along with the white and gray and black and gray colorways of the Blazers as well. That release also had an additional pine green colorway of the Waffle, also known more affectionately as the Barney colorway. The Nike X Sacai white and black nylon waffles released officially on March 10th, 2020. I will say, even though my experience lining up at Haven wasn't the best, thankfully they got enough pairs that I at least got something in hand. I mean, it was clear they weren't going to let people who lined up get in until the good sizes were gone, so that should have been my warning shot. Anyways, they allowed people to get one of each colorway, which is why I was able to get both. They retail for 210 Canadian dollars here in Canada and 160 US dollars stateside. They're going for really decent prices right now in the aftermarket, so I'll leave a link in the description for you to go and get them. Now I know what you're thinking, you're looking at these going, aren't they too similar to the white and gray and black and gray pairs that released before these? Well, in some ways you're right, and in many ways you're wrong, and I'll show you exactly how in a bit. For those that don't know yet, the Nike X Sacai Waffle is a mashup of 2 classic Nike silhouettes, the LDV and the Waffle. Think Dragon Ball Z, they fusion danced into each other, and this is what you get. You can see this fusion and multi-layered design as they took the panels from both shoes and literally mashed and superimposed them on top of each other. Sacai, the clothing brand led by founder and designer Chitose Abe, sneakerheads can't say that name enough these days, has been known for taking clothing styles from different genres, mixing formal and casual clothing together to get a look that's completely unique and stands on its own. That's exactly the design ethos that went into their collaborations with Nike and in these shoes specifically. Now before we get more in depth into the sneaker, let's quickly go over the materials. The upper of the shoe is made up of a handful of materials, and remember when we talked about how there are quite a few differences between these and the previous pairs? Well, you should have caught the first hint in the name. The upper is predominantly made of nylon, whereas the previous releases have all been made by this mesh that seemed all too fragile. It was very spread out and holey. This time we've got no holes in a thicker, more durable material. No more worrying when you're walking on eggshells, particularly very sharp eggshells that can cut through a single layer of very thin mesh. Next we have the eyelets that are layered with 2 different panels, one made of regular leather and the second being this very nappy, brushy suede. We have the same double paneling on the Nike swoosh. Once again, one is very hairy suede and the other one is leather, and we see the same double layering situation with overlapping toe boxes. Now as we know, even though these shoes are called the Nike X Sacai Waffles, they're actually a mashup of 2 different Nike shoes, the LDV and the Waffle. So these overlaps aren't just random. For example, one of these swooshes is designed and placed the way it would be on a Nike Waffle, while the other is placed and designed the way it would be on a Nike LDV. Same goes for the eyelets over here. As you can see, there's 2 different eyelets. One is from the LDV, one is from the Waffle once again. We also have the 2 tongues. They're actually separated. 1 tongue, 2 tongue. One is probably elongated a little bit. I'm not too sure if it's actually the same length on both shoes, but it has to be done for the sake of showing that there's 2 tongues. And finally, the 2 midsoles right here, the bottom being the Waffle, I believe, and the top being from the LDV. The shoe also comes laced with 2 sets of laces, and this is another big change from previous Sacai Waffles. One of the laces in these new pairs looks like ribbons, thin and shiny, while the other is a very thin cord-like lace with rounded tip. While the previous pairs all came double laced with mismatched standard flat laces, these new laces give the shoe a more decidedly feminine touch. However, the new pairs do come with 2 sets of standard flat laces in either black or white, so if ribbons aren't your thing, you have nothing to worry about on that front. Finally, the coolest part of this shoe for me, at least for the white pair, is the all-white outsole. Of course, this thing is going to get dirty almost immediately after you wear them, but considering all previous pairs had a black outsole, this makes the shoe look that much cleaner. Another unique unique change with these pairs versus previous pairs is just how hairy the suede panels are. The heel counters overlap with the second panel being that ridiculously hairy suede, and same with the top of the heel portion where the Nike text sits. I love the fuzzy feel of that suede, and it's by far the best out of all the previous Sacai Waffles. When it comes to sizing, it's hard to give you exact advice because these shoes are half a size above my true size. These are a size 10.5, the smallest size that was left at Haven after they let the Toronto reseller squad go in multiple times before letting the people who lined up go in first. I'm a size 10 true to size, and I've been able to go half a size down on previous Sacai Waffles to 9.5, and they fit perfect. My personal recommendation for Sacai Waffles in general is that you can go half a size down or go true to size and you will most likely be fine. The fact that these are nylon might change that a little bit, so for now I'll steer towards going true to size since nylon is thicker and less flexible than the mesh that's on the older Sacai Waffles. When it comes to comfort, there's nothing revolutionary here once again, but despite all that, these shoes manage to be comfortable, mainly because of the thick midsole and the light, low-cut design of this shoe. They feel lightweight, they're breathable, and the thickness of the midsole negates any possible effects of an uneven or bumpy surface, but don't expect any outstanding comfort. There's no special tech aside from these aforementioned characteristics. Overall, I've always been a huge fan of the Nike X Sacai collaborations and have been a fan of the Sacai brand even before that. The brand itself has always been out of my budget, the stuff ain't cheap, you hear me? So these Sacai collabs are a blessing from the elder gods. The new Nike X Sacai Waffle black and white nylon pairs are great. They're not as vibrant as previous pairs, but that's what makes them so great. They're clean, versatile pairs that you can match with anything and can beat them up without worrying too much about them breaking apart or losing their look. Plus, that new nappy luxe suede is just beautiful. On top of all that, they are the most affordable of the bunch in the aftermarket, so once again, if you want a pair of the Nike X Sacai Waffles in this new nylon finish for a decent price, go ahead and check the link in the description below. What do you guys think about the new nylon Sacai Waffles? Are they clean? Do you like the new nylon setup? Would you wear these to beat them up, or are you not a fan of the overlapping motifs? Let me know in the comments. Catch you later. Picsoleated is breathable nylon.